Well, hello there, my beautiful space blobs and fellow sensitive souls. Oh, I am feeling all the emotions before I even sat down to talk about this full moon. I am personally having a very sensitive day as I sit here to film this. And I used to kind of wait for the day where I'd be feeling really vibrant or energized or clear headed. Make sure that I was in one of those days before I did anything. And anymore, I've been letting myself do my work on days where I'm feeling extra sensitive, extra on the edge of tearing up a little bit, because sometimes these are some of the best places for me to explore, to teach, to chat about life. I think so many of us can connect to that feeling and are sharing it together. And this is also just a very sensitive, emotive, soulful full moon. I think the Virgo full moon every year, as the full moon during Pisces season, is just a very sensitive, open place. In Pisces season in general, we are going through a process of releasing, of changing perspective, of understanding our growth. And so the Virgo full moon holds this really special place. Virgo full moon is always going to be connected for me in my mind with symbolism of the hermit, the inner seeker with that lantern, being willing to sit with ourselves, go through the different layers of spirit, body, subconscious. And that's also a symbolism that Virgo is very tied to, this idea of the goddess who is able to move through the different levels of the universe, from the celestial to the underground and in the flowering of the earth. So Virgo full moon is always a sensitive time for me. And this year particularly, this Virgo full moon is happening as Saturn moves out of Aquarius and into Pisces. So it's also ushering in a new energetic cycle, as well as helping us to say goodbye to an old energetic cycle. And I think this takes more than one full moon, one tender couple of days to do that and to process that and figure out our own innate rhythm. However, the symbolism is really ripe here for the plucking and exploring. So let's get into the details of what's going on with this Virgo full moon. So it's happening on March 7th. And like I mentioned, this is the same day that Saturn is shifting out of Aquarius and into Pisces. And the big aspect that we'll be seeing here with this Virgo full moon is a trine with our friend Uranus over in Taurus. Uranus has been really connecting with moons a lot in recent months. Like, we are often working with Uranus in some way. The Leo full moon, we were having a square with it. And so now we're moving into a really nice trine with the Virgo full moon. And that is offering up a lot of wisdom. So let's get into it. There are a couple of themes that I notice here right away with this trine. So theme one is going to be a beginning of a new cycle of seed planting. So with a trine like this, Uranus is about shaking it up, turning things on their side, on their head. It's very hanged man imagery, where we're not looking at the problems and the focal points the same way all the time. And so when you're working with Uranus, it's always going to be this invitation to look in a different direction, not get, tunnel vision on one way that we're going to make it through the question, the unknown, the becoming, but being able to open our sight and maybe turn our sight to a new track and give ourselves permission to do that, give ourselves permission to start planting seeds on a new track or in a new way, and starting to see ourselves and our becoming in a new way. So we're going to be getting a little bit more clarity of focus on where we actually need to be putting our sights, setting our sights. We may have been kind of trying to set our sights on one way of doing things for a little while. Maybe even the last 3 years, there's been a process of setting our sights, setting our becoming in a certain way. This full moon is that invitation to kind of open to, there might be some new paths wanting to meet us. There might be some different roads that we have not foreseen starting to show themselves to us, starting to allow their vision to be incorporated into our lives. So it's it's about kind of softening our focus and opening up our eyes a little bit. Now, along with that, the second theme with this trine in Uranus is going to be letting go of the old patterns that we were using for the last few years. And that's not to belittle patterns, ways of dealing with things in life, ways of moving through the last 3 years. Some of those are going to be totally valid and powerful and have been important in what we are doing in this life. Some of those really played a part. But it's about being willing to grieve what we are leaving behind, what we are releasing during this full moon, what we are releasing as Saturn shifts out of Aquarius and into Pisces, and the acknowledgement that comes with that. I think also with this whole imagery, because we are working with Virgo's energy, which is so much about regeneration, the spiritual circle of creation, honestly. And for me, Virgo combines all of them. It combines the releasing, the going underground, and the flowering, and how they're all connected. That's one of the really cool things about Virgo energy. And one of the things with that is that we want to let go of perfectionism in the seed planting. So, we may be like, all right, so Virgo full moon, Saturn's moving out of Aquarius. This is my time. This is my season. So I'm going to make sure these seeds are planted perfectly. And I'm like on it. And I know exactly how to do it. And I know how it's going to come out. And I have my roadmap. Letting go of that perfectionism. Let there be rough edges in the creation and in the trying. Let there be awkwardness and uncertainty in your seed planting. The big thing here is to just be willing to look at the seeds you want to plant and to start planting. And I think it's a really important affirmation during this time to just focus on that. Focus on the trying, on the planting, and take care of that part of yourself that is bold enough to do that trying and doing that seed planting and doing that visioning. That part of you needs some support. And, you might also want to take care of the part of yourself that's feeling cautious and scared and maybe grieving all that has left. So we're going to be working with that. We're going to be working with softening our vision, opening up, allowing ourselves to think in new ways, and just leave enough spaciousness for the new path to come in, as well as grieving the patterns for how we kind of kept ourselves together over the last 3 years, and know that it's time for some of those things to shift. Some of those patterns, those routines, those anchor points that we were using to maybe dissolve or change shape or pivot a little bit. It's a really great moon also to just look at the practical side of how we are living through a day or a week and where we may want to do some shifting and shuffling. And finally, there's a final big theme, and it's something I've mentioned a few times already in this chat, which is that this full moon is happening at the same time as Saturn's shift into Pisces. And I think this goes back to this idea that I've mentioned a couple times as well about Virgo. So Virgo, I know a lot of times we see it as this like perfectionistic sign that's about getting it done and detail oriented and all of that. But that's the really surface layer, right? If we really connect with this archetype. The thing with this archetype is that it is the symmetry and the symbiosis and the connectivity of our subconscious, our spirit and our heart and our body and our physical, and how those three are in communion. And often we know we'll be separating them out and kind of focusing on one aspect or another. But Virgo is always a reminder to have a meeting with all three. And I'm going to be doing a visualization for us over on Patreon. If you have not checked it out, this is for all members. It's going to be amazing, where we're going to go through the layers. We're going to have a communion. We're going to have a little moment of pause and breath there. But so this is a sign about the cohesiveness of all of it, of everything coming back together into whole integrity. And for me, that's really important as we walk through a doorway like this, right? As we're symbolically shifting energies with semi-outer planet Saturn, with, his 2.5-3 year cycles like this. This is really the cohesiveness of bringing our spirit, our heart, our body, our subconscious through that door all together is so important. And to sit with all these levels of ourselves and be aware of them and give each of them space to breathe, to express, to show us what they're grieving, to show us what they're excited to connect with, and to feel that kind of letting go. The holy release of the tension and the stress and the trying to hold it all together. And in doing that, being able to walk through this door into a new Saturn cycle. So it's also just a simplicity of just sitting in communion with ourselves, wherever we are in that journey as we walk through this doorway. Let's get into the cards. In the background of this full moon, kind of in its own little orbit, we also have Jupiter and Chiron conjunct during this full moon. And I'm just going to mention this while we shuffle. So in the background, a card just flew all the way over there. So let's go grab it. The Empress. I love it. Very Taurus energy, which we are working with a lot of Uranus and Taurus at the moment. So with Chiron and Jupiter conjunct, it's just a little reminder here to find empowerment and creativity in the places we think of as weak, as stuck, as problematic. It makes me think about how I'm feeling as I come into this chat today, feeling very sensitive and, just I'm feeling sensitive about my life and about who I'm becoming and what is leaving and what is shifting. And that sometimes, the part of me that wants to be professional and on top of it and get things done feels like this is a weak point. But this is also where I get the connectivity to all of you other sensitive spirits out there. And how we form that bond and that connection and how we do our work together. And so this is a good example of kind of Jupiter and Chiron conjunct in Aries, that those places we think are going to be the most shame-filled and scary are the places of deepest connection. And I think that is an important, subtext of this whole full moon. I didn't expect to let that come out, but I think I just felt, it's like I realized that in letting some of these tears out, that we'll have this circle of compassion with each other that we can share. And that makes me smile. And it makes me feel better about feeling really sensitive today. So let's see what other card wants to come out. King of Pentacles. All right, let's keep it with these two. I love these two cards so much. They're very grounded, which I think is so helpful in kind of this Piscean sea that we find ourselves in during this Virgo full moon. And, it is a Virgo full moon. So there is an element of how we anchor into our lives, how we, combine all these elements, our subconscious, our spirit, our heart, and then we bring it back here. We are with the body in this journey, right? So the Empress and the King of Pentacles remind me of that. Now, the big thing with both of these, they relate to Earth sign logic in that things take time to flower. This is about, we plant seeds, and instead of trying to rush ourselves through the process of having the answers and getting to the end point and having the solutions, it's a reminder that this is about planting the seeds that we want to tend for a long time, not just kind of force ourselves through for the next couple of weeks. It's kind of like that famous thing where we'll be like, well, I just need to get through the next 3 weeks of horrible projects that make me feel empty inside, and then it'll get better, right? This is about the things that we choose and tend to that go to a deeper place and that hold us for longer. I think both of these cards speak to as well, take care of yourself and your nervous system and your physical body during this time. And remember that you have value in this life. It's okay to go at your own pace. It's okay to go at your own natural rhythm. It's okay to slow down a little bit. It's also okay to feel enthusiastic and excited and be ready and to want to start planting the seeds and to start creating and to start playing. That will happen, but this is also about remembering that this is a bigger this full moon is really tapping into, I think, bigger projects and ideas than just the next couple of months. It's tapping into the next couple of years. It's tapping into how we are going to flower and burgeon in that time, and that taking back the power of knowing that time is on your side, and that process is on your side, and feeling that you're well taken care of at a deep soul level is so important. So amplifying the kind, loving, supportive voice, knowing that you're cared for, that you're loved, even if you don't have all the answers right now, even if you don't know exactly what this next energetic cycle is going to bring you, or you're feeling a little scared of how you're changing. The Empress and the King of Pentacles are both about nurturance, deep universal love, and that it's okay. We don't have to punish ourselves into success. We don't have to force ourselves into success. We don't have to run ourselves over 100 times trying to get to success, to safety, to this mythic place that we think we need to be. The Empress and the King of Pentacles are a reminder that through softness, through taking some deep breaths, through reconnecting with our body and our hearts, we do more than by forcing and pushing and trying to make things happen quickly, or through force, for blunt force. This is totally about softening everything and taking a breath. And with that, I want to mention, like I mentioned, this is a full moon of deep release, of grieving the ways we've had to cope, the ways we've been scared, the things that maybe have left in the last 3 years. And that is really potent. That will actually help us move forward much more easily. So things that sometimes I think we think of as like kind of falling back or taking a step back is really about us opening more fully to our lives. So there's going to be a lot of that kind of logic in this full moon. Like I mentioned, I am going to be walking us through a whole check-in with our body, with our heart and spirit, and with our subconscious. And we're going to have like this beautiful communion over on my Patreon. And I am really loving that space. It's so awesome. Like I love that people can come. It's only $5 for most of the stuff that I do there, and you can come and go as you want. And I really feel like I offer something so soothing and lovely and soft over there. So I'd love to see you there. It also really helps me keep doing this work. And I would also love to see you here in this world of algorithms. It really does make a huge difference. I think sometimes we underestimate how much these little moments that we push that like button or that subscribe button will do, because it feels so superficial. But for me, it means the world and really does make a difference in my life. So thank you to all of you who are here. And you can find me on my Instagram and my website, all the good places. I am so excited to explore this all with you. And I will see you all so very soon for our next chat. Talk to you soon.